Hello everyone, welcome to Court with Krissy. Today's traffic court defender and I have a few things in common. We have the same name, we're the same age. She has 2 dogs, I have 2 dogs. We both drive Toyotas, and apparently we both like to drive fast. One big difference, she's definitely more entertaining in a courtroom. I hope you like it. Court with Krissy is now in session.
Have questions on cross-examination, please make them relevant to whatever the testimony is of the witness that Ms. Davison has. And if you choose to testify again, you don't have to, but if you choose to testify again, make it relevant to what's going on here, okay?
Okay.
All right. Ms. Davison, do you have an opening statement in this matter?
No, we will waive. Thank you.
Okay, and Ms. Rogensky, do you have an opening statement? It's not necessary. You can do one if you wish, but you don't need to.
No, it's okay. I'm
Okay.
fine.
Ms. Davison, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. The state will call Trooper Miller.
Do you solemnly swear or do you affirm that the testimony about to give is the truth, whole truth, nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
I do.
Please ask, sir. For the record, please give your name and spell your last name.
Trooper Brian Miller, Miller, 3855 Outville Road, Granville, Ohio, 43023.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome.
You may proceed, Ms. Davison.
Thank you. Trooper Miller, how long have you been employed with the Ohio State Highway Patrol?
7.5 years.
And were you working on July 6th of this year?
I was.
What shift were you working that day?
10 a.m. to 10 p.m.
Okay. On that day during your shift, were you wearing a uniform of the day, such as the one you have on?
I was.
Were you driving a marked patrol car with visible working light bar?
I was.
Now, on July 6th during your shift, did your job duties include traffic enforcement?
They did.
While you were operating your cruiser during your shift that day, did you have any electronic speed measuring devices in your cruiser, specifically LiDAR or laser?
I did.
What type did you have in your vehicle?
Ultralight LTI 2020.
With regard to the ultralight 2020, the LTI, is it the LTI ultralight 2020?
Yes.
And with regard to that laser, do you have any specific training with regard to laser equipment?
I do.
When did you receive your initial training?
It's 2017 is when I was in the academy. If I had to guess, it was July or August of 2017.
While you were in the academy, what specifically did they teach you how to do with regard to lasers?
They taught you the nomenclature of the device. They taught you how to operate the device. And in addition to that, they taught you how to check the calibration of the device.
Okay. And did you have to take any proficiency tests, oral or written, to complete that training?
You had to take a written test, and then in addition to that, you had to go out on the road, show that you knew how to check the calibration of the laser, show that you knew how to visually estimate speeds of vehicles. You had to be plus or minus 3 miles an hour on your visual estimations, and then you just had to show that you could work it throughout what would be a typical working shift, and then at the end of that shift, you had to show that you could check the calibration again.
Okay, thank you. And first of all, did you successfully complete that training in the academy?
I did.
And since that time in the academy, do you receive any updates with regard to electronic speed measuring devices?
I do. Once a year we have to ride with the supervisor, and again they're just checking to make sure that you're familiar with the nomenclature, you know how to check the calibration of the device. You can identify if the device is having any kind of issues that it needs to be sent in for service for, or that it may need to be taken out of service for the day, and then furthermore that you know how to operate the device throughout the shift.
And on July 6th, you said you had the ultralight 2020 in your vehicle. Did you have an opportunity to check the calibration of that equipment?
I did. I checked at the beginning of my shift and at the end of my shift.
And can you explain for the court how you check the calibration of that machine?
So I do it at the post. There's a marked parking spot at the exit from the post onto Alville Road. You park your cruiser right over that white line in the parking lot. If you look to your left, there's 2 what would be traffic signs. They're typically like the same size as milepost signs. First you start by turning on the laser. You just pull the trigger. It'll do a self-test of the LED functions on the screen. It'll indicate pass. You then put the laser into test mode, and the first thing you'll check is for scope alignment. To do this, you pick an object that's a decent distance away that you can use to check the scope alignment. And what you do is you hold down the trigger, and there's a consistent wavering tone. And I use a tree across the street from the post, a tree or utility pole. And when you start on the left side of that, as you're holding the trigger, the tone will be kind of lower in pitch or tone, and then as you waver over the tree with the red dot in the scope, that pitch will get higher, and then as you go off the right side of the tree, it'll go back to its original tone. So you do that both vertically and horizontally. You're checking both alignments of the scope. And once that passes, you then hit the test function again. It'll say D1, which means distance 1, and you'll shoot the laser at the first closest sign that I spoke about earlier. It'll be 150 feet. Once you do that, you hit the test function a second time. It'll display distance 2. You shoot the second sign, it'll be 175 feet. After that, you hit the test function again, and as long as it yields 50 miles an hour plus or minus 1 mile per hour, you know that your laser is in calibration.
And when you check the calibration, both at the beginning and end of your shift, did it satisfy the requirements that you've been trained to look for?
It did.
And during your shift that day, did you have to take it out of service for any reason?
I did not.
Did you have any concern with the proper working order of that laser that day?
I did not.
And these, you called them like milepost signs
Yeah.
that are in the parking lot. Are they stationary?
They are stationary, and I have measured them myself.
Okay, so they're not, it's not like a traffic cone where you can move them or they can be moved by wind or anything like that?
That's correct. It's just like a metal stake in the ground.
Okay. Now, I want to draw your attention to approximately 4:40 in the afternoon on July 6th. What first drew your attention to the defendant's vehicle?
I was on stationary patrol on Interstate Route 70 at or near milepost 137 in Bowling Green Township, Licking County, Ohio. I was checking the speeds of vehicles traveling eastbound on the interstate. I observed a red vehicle in the left lane, what I visually estimated to be 93 miles per hour. I activated my laser and checked this vehicle speed at 92, followed by 91, 90, and 91 miles per hour.
And when you did that, when you were watching this vehicle, were there any other vehicles around it?
I don't recall.
Okay. And when you're checking the vehicle like you did that day, how can you be sure that the laser is checking the correct vehicle?
So the laser has, like I testified before, it has a scope on it, and in that scope there's a little red dot. And the laser is different from the radar in the way that you can be very selective about which vehicles you're checking. And that's the purpose of the scope alignment check, is that the red dot is lining up with the vehicle you actually think you're checking. So that laser kind of leaves out of the question as to whether or not you're checking, am I checking this car or this car? You're very specific about which car you check, and that red dot allows you to be certain about which car you're checking.
After you received those several checks of her speed, did the car then pass you?
She did.
Okay. And did you, when she passed you, did you initiate a traffic stop?
I did.
Okay. When you initiated that traffic stop, did you speak to the driver of the car and ask for ID and insurance?
I did.
And is that when the driver became known to you as Kristen Roginski?
Yes.
And I know this is a strange question, but do you see her anywhere in the court?
In the courtroom, no, but I see her on the Zoom meeting. She's wearing looks to be a white button-up shirt.
Okay. And when you spoke to the defendant, did you tell her why you initiated a traffic stop at that time?
I did.
And what, if anything, did she say to you about the speeding offense?
I don't recall the specifics of the conversation. I just believe she stated that she didn't realize her speed. And there was, to my recollection, there was really no argument about it. She just stated she didn't realize her speed.
Okay. Now, after you spoke to the defendant, did you cite her with any traffic offenses?
I did.
And what was that?
It was for speeding in a 70 mile per hour zone. It's ORC 451121D4. I cited her for traveling 92 miles an hour in a 70 mile an hour zone.
Okay. I have nothing further. Thank you.
All right. Ms. Roginski, at this point, you had the opportunity to ask Trooper Miller any questions that you have regarding his testimony. Do you have any questions for him?
Yes. So the day that I was traveling on the road coming back to Pittsburgh, he was I seen him to the right of me, parked on the side of the road. He was actually not inside his vehicle. He was outside of his vehicle. So, like, when I pulled over, I had no idea that whenever he had his lights on that he was pulling me over.
Is that a question for Trooper Miller?
I'm just wondering if this laser thing that he has, does he stand outside the road with the laser beam and check cars because there were a lot of cars on the road. It was like July 4th weekend, 4th of July weekend.
So the laser is a handheld device. I could sit inside my car and use it. I could stand outside my car and use it. It's no bigger than a manila envelope that Miss Davidson has on her desk. It's obviously heavier and a little bit more blocky, but I can carry it anywhere with me, if that makes sense. I could walk out onto the street right outside the courtroom and use it right now.
Okay.
Any other questions, Ms. Rogensky?
No.
Any redirect?
Just one, Your Honor. Was that, well, two, was that in fact the holiday weekend, Trooper Miller?
It was.
And did you work that whole weekend as far as seeing a lot more traffic?
I did.
Did you have any question as to which vehicle you checked that day?
There was no question.
I have nothing further, thank you.
Ms. Rogensky, do you have any follow-up questions based on what Ms. Davison has asked?
I don't believe my car gets up that fast. I have a little hatchback Scion. I had 2 dogs in the car, a big dog inside a crate and a dog in front, and 2 kids also in the car. So I don't typically speed. I've never had a speeding ticket in my entire life.
Okay.
So I don't believe I was going that fast.
All right, but do you have any other questions for the trooper? Okay, Trooper Miller, you may step down.
Thank you.
Any other witnesses?
We have no further witnesses. We would rest at this time, thank you.
Very well. Thank you, Ms. Davison. Ms. Rogensky, at this time, you may testify if you wish. It's not required. As I said, no one can make you testify in this matter, but if you wish to testify, you may do so or present any other evidence that you have. How do you wish to proceed?
I'm not certain I know what that means.
Okay. Testimony would be you're telling the court what you want the court to hear under oath, and you'd be sworn in just as Trooper Miller was sworn in. You would tell the court what you want. Again, if you choose to testify, you don't have to. If you choose to do that, you would be sworn in. You would tell the court what you want the court to hear. Then Ms. Davison would have the opportunity to cross-examine you. In other words, ask you questions about your testimony. If you have other evidence other than your own testimony to present, you may do so. And then after that, after you rest, that's what we call, when you conclude any presentation of evidence that you have, then the court would make a decision regarding this matter. That's the best I can explain it. Do you?
I mean, I would like to explain why I don't think I was speeding.
Well, if you wish to do so, you may do so under oath. Or that's probably the best approach. Is that what you wish to do in this matter?
Sure. Yeah.
Okay. If you would raise your right hand to be sworn, please.
Do you solemnly swear or do you affirm that the testimony you're about to give is the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth under penalty of perjury?
Yeah.
Please, for the records, give your name and spell your last name.
Kristen Rogensky, Rogenski.
And your address. Thank you, ma'am.
All right. Ms. Rogensky, what is it that you'd like to tell the court regarding this matter?
I don't believe I was speeding. Like, I don't believe if I were over the speed limit, I don't believe I was doing 92 miles an hour. I don't think my car even goes that fast. However, I was driving home. It was a holiday weekend. I apologize if I was speeding, but I don't believe I was. When I seen the officer, he was on the side of the road. I don't know if he was pulling other people over or he was on the side of the road, like waving his hands. And then a few seconds later, he was behind me. I just don't believe I was speeding.
All right.
I'm
Anything-
43 years old. I've never had a ticket in my entire life.
All right. Anything further, ma'am?
No.
Ms. Davison, do you have any questions for the witness?
Yes, thank you, Your Honor. How fast were you going?
I mean, I'm not sure. When I was coming home, I was traveling home from my sister's from the holiday weekend. So I had my daughter's friend, which were both sleeping in the car. I had my big dog crate, and one of the seats were put down on one side of the car. And then I had my little dog in front of the big dog crate. And my big dog was like barking a little bit because she gets a little bit nervous and anxious in the back seat of the car. So I don't know how fast I was going, but I don't believe I was doing 92 miles an hour.
Okay, but you're not sure how fast you were going, is that correct?
I'm not sure how fast I was going.
Okay.
I typically follow the speed limit all the time. You know, there might have been a lapse in my judgment because I might have been a little bit anxious with my dog barking in the back seat, but I don't believe I was doing 92 miles an hour.
And I don't know if you've ever.
I mean, we're talking, the officer had enough
Ma'am,
time
you can't
I was
talk
doing
unless
92
I
miles an hour.
ask
He
you
was
questions.
on the side of the road when I seen him. So he had enough time to get in the car and still pull me over.
Ma'am,
Yes.
okay. When you said you saw the trooper waving his hands, did you know that he was waving for you to actually pull over?
No, I had no idea. I've never been pulled over before, so I didn't even know how to pull over or where to pull over.
You don't know that you're supposed to pull to the right side of the roadway if a cop pulls you over?
I did not know that, honestly, on a highway.
Okay. I have nothing further.
All
I've
right.
never been pulled over before.
We got it.
Okay. Thank you. Do you have any other evidence you'd like to present, Ms. Rogensky?
No.
All right. Thank you. Based upon that, the defense rests. Ms. Davison, closing?
No, thank you.
All right. Ms. Rogensky, any closing argument you'd like to make?
No.
Yeah, I note here, Ms. Rogensky, that you've not, as you say, you've never had a ticket. Well, now you have had a ticket. Okay, this is number one. I know that it's probably something you weren't really familiar with, but you probably were going faster than you thought. And I know, look, I've made that trip to Pittsburgh. My wife's from West Mifflin, so I'm pretty familiar with the Pittsburgh area. I'm familiar with the drive to Pittsburgh as well. And I know that I-70, and particularly on a holiday weekend like this, would get crowded. But that's why the highway patrol's out there a lot on these holiday weekends. They don't want anybody getting, injured, killed, anything of that nature. So I am finding you guilty of speeding in this matter. Is there any recommendation regarding sentence in this from you, Ms. Davison?
No, Your Honor, we would defer to court.
All right. Ms. Rogensky, is there anything you'd like to state in your own behalf? It's not necessary, but you may if you wish.
No.
Okay. Well, look, I'm going to make this a $100 fine and court costs. I'm not suspending any license here. I think that I'm sure you're a good person. I'm sure this isn't typical of you, but there will be a $100 fine and court costs, and if you contact our clerk's office, they will explain to you how to make payment on this and get it behind you, okay? Good luck to you, ma'am.
Okay, my other question for you, Your Honor, is what about the points?
There's 2 points that you get on your license. Now, I'm not certain what happens in Pennsylvania, but once you accumulate 12 points in Ohio, your license is suspended. So you are way far away from having, your license suspended because of this, but obviously, my advice to you is just be careful out there, okay?
Yes, yes, sir.
All right. Good luck to you, ma'am.
All right, thank you. Thanks for your time. Thank you.